Well, we was always in a task group, and there was 4 task groups out there. So uh, the only one thing that I remember that was when we was near the English. If it started getting dark, we'd always leave because they left all their lights on. They didn't have a darkened ship, and usually wherever we was at, whenever it become dusk, they would blow their pipe and the boat watch would announce over the speaker, all lights out. So you couldn't even smoke out on the top deck at that time after that, so until daylight again, and then of course you could go outside and smoke. So we couldn't smoke on watch most of us either because we was outside watching, depending on where your watch station was. Mine was up on Sky 3, so I was way up in the superstructure, and the 3 of us in the little gun tub. There was several times that we was attacked, but like I said, you don't get much inside the turret because you usually got your earphones on, or depending on where you're at in the turret, and so you don't know much about what's going on the outside. And the one time that the kamikaze did hit the Missouri on the starboard quarter back by it was back by the last superstructure that it hit that. There's still a dent in the railing there where it hit. They never did take that out even when they got it ready for going to Desert Storm. But I didn't even know it hit there. They had to tell me afterwards, and when we secured, of course, everybody run back there to see if they could get a piece of it, because there's lots of pictures of that ship. He had dropped everything he had. He didn't even have any fuel left on. We did start a small fire, but it's put out without no casualties given. Once we went into GQ stations, I was in the turret. In the watch that I was talking about up on Sky 1, that was during normal times when we wasn't being under attack or nothing. Anytime they sounded general quarters, I was in the turret. I could see out, but I couldn't see too much because I just had that one little sight that I looked out of. But during normal days, if there wasn't a GQ, you could see the carriers and everything. It was like on August the 15th when the airplanes all took off of the carriers, and we knew they was going to hit Japan proper because we was up there pretty close. We went through all those other phases and Eagle and all them, and they'd been gone about 4 hours, and all of a sudden we could see they's coming back, and they still got bombs on them. What's going on here? And we all just, everybody, scuttlebutt of all kinds was going around. And then Halsey come on the microphone and said that they dropped the second bomb and the Japanese was going to surrender, and we could go into Tokyo Bay to have the peace sign on there. He said, "I want this ship shape." That means he wasn't standing watch no more, but from 8 until 4 in the afternoon or 5, he was scrubbing the deck or painting and sewing lifelines and getting everything, so it was perfect. He made sure we done that. But that was quite an experience that one day, because we had this scuttlebutt going around. They had beer down there. They was going to break out the beer and everything, but this never happened, you know. Oh, we was all manning what they call manning the rail in our best whites, and you couldn't see much other than the bay. It's just like going into Frisco or any other bay. There was several ships with us, and of course we did pick up a Japanese pilot to take us in so we wouldn't run into any of the mines that they had, because Tokyo Bay was heavily mined at that time. So they knew where they was at, and so they sent a pilot out to take us in. No, we wasn't really that close to anything. If you ever seen any pictures of that, well, you can see that we was out fairly far away. Well, MacArthur, when he come on, even he come on in a destroyer. He wouldn't ride in a small boat. But the Japanese come out in a 24-foot crash boat. They brought them out in that. There was what, 5 or 6 of them that they brought out there on there. That was one of those 24-foot crash boats. Was actually what our captain had as his gig when after the war was over. And, well, there was 16 of us that was put in starch dressed whites. In fact, we all had to send one uniform actually that we'd never even wore back to the laundry, and they cleaned them all up for us, so we were all pretty well starched up. And I was in the 8 group that happened to be the ones that stood at attention when the Japanese come on board. And it's as 18 years old, we didn't want to do that very well, but we had a Marine that told us we would, because he showed us his gun on his hip, and we told him, yeah, we knew what it was because we saw him polishing it 24/7. Anyway, when the Japanese was piped aboard, there was 8 of us on each side, and he explained it to us. He was an old guy. He probably was 34, 40 maybe, and we was all 18. So he explained to us that we wasn't really honoring the person, but the station that they carried. And some of them was military, and some of them was just part of their higher-ups in the Tokyo regime, I guess you'd call it, I don't know. Be like our senators or something like that go to sign different things. What we call the captain's deck, they call it the old 1 level now. When we was on the ship, it was the captain's deck. In fact, his cabin was right off of that deck where that plaque is. There's a hatch going into the superstructure there, and that was the captain's decks as far as and that's where they went up to. And I couldn't see much of that because I had my back to it, standing at the ladder coming on board. Well, as soon as that was over, we had I think over 2,000 airplanes flew over. We had to fly over, so it was just really stirring. And I don't remember much other than after they left, we all just was anxious to get that anchor up and head towards we thought home, but they fooled us. They sent us to Guam to pick up about 100 soldiers that had been in the war for over 4 or 5 years.